If you're familiar with Mystic Messenger, I dubbed the Ssum as its lame little brother. Back in 2016, Mystic Messenger had many of us in a chokehold with its intricate gaming system of real-time messages back and forth with a group of unique characters. From CEO to cocky actor/idol to one woman who makes you question your sexuality. I digress. Mystic Messenger is played through the span of like 10 days, so keep that in mind as I move into what the Ssum is. What is the Ssum? It's meant to mimic getting into a long-distance relationship with a mysterious man you meet on this silly little app you downloaded. There's more than one route out as of now, but I'm sticking with our main guy because I cannot be bothered to play another 100 days of this. Enter Teo. He's a cute master's student/film director who is bored out of his mind while sitting in a hospital recovering from an injury he got on set. He's 27, he's 6 feet tall, he's handsome, he's pretty silly. If you're familiar with Mystic Messenger, he's somewhat of a 707 combined with Yusong. He's friendly rather than stoic. When we finally see his face, he's really pretty. Don't expect that same consistency with the art style for the rest of the game, unfortunately, but we'll go into that a little later. If you're expecting an otome game like Tears of Themis, or literally any otome game with a well thought out story that has a full and rich arc, you'd be wrong. But that's not technically what this is marketed as. The Ssum is meant to feel mundane, I guess, for lack of better words. Whether you're into that idea or not, that's why or why not you should play or not play. Make sense? You have 5 different conversations with Teo throughout the day: wake up, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and nighttime. You also hop through a bunch of different planets where Teo's appearance shifts without warning. Hair color, eyebrows, eye color. The game is meant to mimic a conversation with a real person, but if you miss out on a conversation, somehow he won't even acknowledge that and will continue talking about a topic that you completely missed when you do join in. You get to answer Teo, but it's mostly him talking about stuff you don't really have any personal autonomy in. Basically, the choices can be the same thing and with different wording. Depending on some answers, you'll also get a phone call with Teo at the end of different chat times. They're pretty fun, but can get old after a while since he's never really saying that much. Also, I don't think the choices actually matter in those conversations. The choices don't actually really matter in the game either, but he'll still love you regardless of what you choose. Also, there are a lot of grammatical/translation errors that kind of make you feel like you're playing a rough draft of a game at some points. You also have a silly little bird AI assistant to help you through the game. Sometimes it pops into the chat, it takes photos of Teo without him knowing. It also becomes somewhat sentient the more time passes through the game and makes jokes with you at Teo's expense. There's also a journal feature. You can write an answer for other users to see anonymously. You can travel to different planets and tell jokes and other random word prompts. You also have mini pets that you can take care of at the Sunshine Shelter. And those free things bring me to the point at which you have to spend money to fully enjoy the game. Personally, I think it's kind of a ripoff, but I did it for the sake of getting the full game experience. Don't do it. Don't be like me. There's 2 tiers of pass and you can see them on the screen. It's pretty pricey for a game like this and the features aren't really that worth it, but they kind of are because you can't really play the full game without them. Definitely controversial. The Aurora Evolution is $25 a month, while the Rainbow is $20 a month, which is a lot of money. It felt worth it when I was playing it, but I eventually stopped using half the features, so I guess it's really up to you and your bank account. The reason I did pay for it was because of the ability to speed through the conversations with the secondary batteries. These replenish every day, so you can use all of them and then get more the next day, which is how I managed to get through the entire game. Spoiler alert for my gameplay, I literally forgot to write down what happened on the 200th day because I'm a moron and don't remember what happened either. But I did write down what happened on day 198, so that's basically the same thing. Also, bad journalism on my part again, but I think you officially get into a relationship with him around day 14, so I don't remember the time, but whatever. It seems like a short time, but keep in mind in Mystic Messenger, the people fall in love with you by like day 2, so time is irrelevant in Otome. From that point on, your tasks each day are the same. You talk to Teo, you play his little mini games, you journal in your in-game notepad, and you collect a lot of weird photos. Side note, this meme creature that the creators made is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I'm so sorry. The game is by no means exciting, but it is fun. Now I'm gonna walk you through some of the plot points that I remembered. Keep in mind, this is 200 days of stuff, so I'm mostly going through the last 100 days because that's when I decided to make the video. And if you're watching this, you probably have not made it there / do not want to play it long enough to make it there. As previously mentioned, Teo is an aspiring film director. His dad is a famous filmmaker and he wants to follow in his footsteps, but this injury has caused a little rift in his plan to finish his feature, so his story arc is his recovery and what he does in between getting back into filmmaking. Meanwhile, Teo is a big job hopper. Every other day, we see Teo try out different jobs, from pizza delivery to working at a convenience store. There were so many I couldn't keep track, but eventually he settles at a consistently weekly job as a teacher at a local after-school program. While this is happening, Teo eventually gets hooked onto trying to figure out the company behind the app you're using. This point is the only real moment of drama that you have with Teo. He starts hard focusing on this and neglects your relationship. You can choose to argue with him, and it's kind of fun because this is the only real chance you get to have this kind of sad, dramatic undertone. Eventually you do make up and it's never really talked about again. I will say that some of the choices you make are remembered and he'll remember specific details that you've said. Throughout these days, you also do run into characters from Mystic Messenger in different ways. Teo finds Elizabeth III and runs into Jaehee. He eventually meets Jumin through one of his part-time jobs, and he also meets Zen in a big way. Teo eventually participates in this Survivor reality musical show called The Muse of Musical Muse, something weird. I don't know. We also get to know Harry, the other romanceable character. He and Teo don't get along, and Harry wears a horse head for some reason. I think it's definitely explained in his route, but I have not played his route. We watch Teo participate in this show for a number of weeks before he eventually only gets like 3rd place or something. After that's all over, he's had a taste of fame. We start to meet more of his friends. He goes on some trips with them, hangs out with them, and even participates in one of his friends' weddings where he heavily implies that he's ready to start a family with you already. And you're like, well, man, we just met like 80 days ago. He also has a fun and silly upstairs neighbor who's like this really muscular jock who tries to get Teo to work out with him. Hard fast forward to day 177 because everything has blended together regardless of me trying to keep it together and definitely, totally, thoroughly, definitely, absolutely taking notes. Teo is a victim to a building fire. It sounds bad, and I'm sorry, that was misleading. A building across the street gets set on fire, and there's a lot of smoke and he has to evacuate, I guess, because there's been a series of different arsons near him. This was really crazy, but they never figure it out either. So just like me, you were also left hanging with that plot. On day 178, he finally goes back to the dark hair we thought he'd have for the majority of the game. And he also decides to quit his job as a teacher. I don't know why, honestly. We're gonna zoom through the last part of the game because it actually gets more insane from here. Teo starts working on a film set and you don't actually see him that often for a bit until his cousin Noah comes for a visit. Noah is like an astronomer or something. He's older, and when they were little they used to be closer, but now Noah doesn't really get along with him and they go on some weird adventures together and eventually they end up in a cult. Yeah, you heard me right. To be honest, the details are a little fuzzy, but it's essentially this really weird place where Noah brings this meteorite he was studying to this group of freaks with colored hair and strange drinks, and it's like some important piece of the cult. We also see V from Mystic Messenger here, but I didn't play his route, so I know nothing about that, so don't ask me to clarify the details. At the very end, Teo gets in a huge argument with his cousin about giving away his life's work, the meteorite, to the cult. Something weird happens with your bird AI, some kind of like satellite interference, and the chat room shuts down and the day ends. This is like day 198, by the way. It's really close to the end. The next day, we get Teo back and he and Noah decide to dip out. We don't even really know what happened. It kind of just leaves you hanging. I said earlier that I didn't write down the last day, but he just goes on with life as normal. There's no conclusion. It's definitely set up so that they can add more content, but it definitely feels lacking. Now, as unsatisfying as that conclusion of my recap of the story was, that's kind of how playing the game felt. I'm sorry I don't have more details. I tried my best to remember big plot points, but this was half a year's worth of content shoved into one video. It definitely has the potential to be fun. It's a really cool idea to force someone to continue playing your game for 200 days to get the full experience, but it's lacking in story and it's overpriced in a lot of ways. Most days felt like a chore to get through, and truth be told, I eventually settled on playing all 5 chats in the beginning of the day and not having to deal with the time aspect of it all. Unlike Mystic Messenger when they were messaging you at 2:30 a.m. Most games nowadays have some kind of monetary system. I'm not saying that this is bad, but for the price you pay, the story is not that interesting, and in my opinion, Teo is only a so-so companion. There's a lot more games that have better relationships and you pay less money for them. I imagine it's difficult to keep one character's personality exciting for 200 days without much else to go off of though. Yeah, we see his friends and other people throughout the game, but the challenge of making someone like this interesting for this long was definitely hard, and I think the creators did a good job, but it didn't always work. At the end of the day, I still played the whole thing. This is just my opinion and my experience. I'm sure there are many others who've played the entire thing too.
I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions, and if you were able to make it to all 200 days, where you stopped, why you stopped, any information. If you remember more details than me, that'd be awesome. I'd love to talk more about this game. It's crazy. Are you disappointed in the game? Did you think it was fine? I'd love to know any of your opinions. That'd be great.
I definitely felt like I had to keep playing since I had made it that far through. I don't recommend playing it, but if you are curious and like to torture yourself, go ahead. I definitely didn't do a great job recapping the entire story, but it really wasn't a story. It was day-to-day things. Some details remain the same. Sometimes Teo was in a place for a week or more, but there wasn't much variety to it. You could sum it up by saying that Teo worked a job and then flirted with you. In terms of romance, it definitely didn't feel that romantic. He flirted with you, but it was okay. I don't think it helped that his appearance was inconsistent. The CGs that you get when you're playing a typical game don't happen in this, so you're really not getting those butterflies in your stomach moments. That's my experience. I'm probably not going to be making videos like this, but if you liked it, it'd be cool if you gave the video a like, typical YouTuber things. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. This was a time commitment that I wasn't planning on making, but I did it for you. I did it for the people who wanted to know if this game was worth playing. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.